Hello, everybody, and welcome into another series preview here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and we are up to the Colorado Avalanche, LA Kings, first round matchup. Finally, a new one involving the Kings, not involving the Oilers in the first round. So I'm sure, Roz, you're very happy about that. I don't know. The opponent is a lot tougher, maybe. But yeah, how's it going?
Yeah, not bad. Just watching the first couple games today. So, that time of year is always great. But yeah, I mean, Kings Avalanche, I mean, everyone is expecting them to walk over the Kings. So, I mean, it is a different opponent. Probably the only one that's worse for them, but it's the playoffs. We'll see.
Yeah, you never know. Once you're in, it doesn't matter about the standings. Everything resets. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Zach, how's it going? Coming in, stepping in for the Avalanche again. Yeah,
Yeah, no, great to be here. Good talking about the Avalanche. It's funny, doing the preview with you at the beginning of the season. Now we're talking playoff previews too. So yeah, it's come full circle, and just being able to cover them for a little bit this year too for the Hockers. So yeah, it's always fun talking hockey, especially the playoffs.
for sure. So yeah, the Colorado Avalanche, of course, won the President's Trophy. They're the number one seed in the entire league. I dominated for most of the season. Didn't get their first regulation loss until what? It was like a month in. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah,
It looked like they weren't going to lose for a long time at home. So, I mean, of course, they've got home ice. We'll see how much of a difference that makes. So I'll start with you, Zach, on the journey to the playoffs for the Avalanche. Like I say, they're pretty much dominant for most of the season. Maybe a little bit of a lull at one point, but all their top players were their top players again. I mean, it's probably not too much you can say. Their journey to the playoffs is pretty easy.
yeah. I mean, you're looking at a team that went 55, 16, and 11 this year, 26, 9 and 6 at home. Even their road record was 29, 7 and 5, and plus 99 goal differential. And it was definitely interesting too when you think about it, because at the start of the year, like they were just at one point, I was like, I think it was going to, where you were almost talking 15-0-2 or something like that. It was just a crazy run they were on. And then somewhere it started, seeing some games that they should have won, they weren't. And then we saw, them losing like 8-6 to the Canucks. It definitely fell a patch where it was like they weren't scoring goals. They, the defense wasn't really helping out. Goaltending was kind of shaky a little bit too. And the thing is, like, their power play wasn't the greatest. Like, they have so many great guys on this roster, but the power play was just one of the bottom of the entire league. And the thing was, like, you started the year without Mackenzie Blackwood. You thought he was going to be your 1A. You get Scott Wedgwood coming in, who they brought in last season, and he goes with, a 36-6 record with a 2.02 goals against and a 921 save percentage. And then Blackwood with a 23-10-2, a 251 goals against and a 904 save. Like, you'll gladly take that for the Avalanche with just how it worked out with, even with Blackwood out, Wedgwood just came in and kind of did their thing. And then, yeah, like you said too, like, bunch of guys with a boatload of points. Obviously, Nathan McKinnon, no surprise, 127 points. Martin Necas, first time having 100 points in his career as well. I mean, Kel McCarr was 79, Brock Nelson was 65, and then, they're bringing 2022 version of the Avalanche back, going get Nazem Kadri. So yeah, it's been an interesting season for the Avalanche, and yeah, they won the Presidents, but it'll be interesting to see how this team plays with just their kind of so-so power play, and hopefully for Avalanche fans that they don't see some of the walls they saw at some points of the season where, like, you felt like they were on cruise control, that at some point they kind of started to be like, oh, we're going to come back to earth a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how this round goes for the Avalanche, if they're looking too far ahead or they're going to stay in the present.
For sure. Yeah, we'll see how that all goes. Roz, with the LA Kings, they had a bit of an up and down season. It looked like that at one point, I mean, they went right down to the wire that they might have missed the playoffs. And their team was a bit, of course, changed coaches as well. DJ Smith now is an interim coach, looking to see if he can push him into the playoffs a bit further than the first round, getting kicked the last few seasons. What was their journey like to this point?
Yeah, I think, when you take a look back at after the end of last year, they brought in Ken Holland to, sort of make those minor tweaks to a roster that they thought was just, kind of ready to take that next step in the playoffs. And I think the problem is you saw a team that took a step back instead of that step forward. And so they didn't have the greatest season, as everyone knows. They couldn't find any sort of consistency. They had their longest winning streak was just at the end of the season here. I think it was five game winning streak to end the year, but besides the loss to the Flames. But before that, just no more than 4 wins in a row. That only happened once in November, and they were treading water basically the whole year, just trying to stay competitive, stay in the race. And it was 23 overtime losses, 22 overtime losses, whatever that number was, the most ever from a team in the NHL. And so it's a team that was barely surviving. And I think the elephant in the room is the fact that the Pacific Division was so bad. And that enabled them to be as mediocre as they were and still make the playoffs. If the Pacific Division was any better than it was this year, then you're probably not sitting here.
For sure. And if the NHL ends up, I don't know if they'll ever do it, get rid of the loser point, they're way out of it. Take away all those points. That's they're down in the lottery positions.
Yep.
So I mean that's always a thing, but those are points. So they made it out of that, and we'll see what they can do in the playoffs when you don't get. I mean, you'll go to overtime, but you don't get the 3-on-3. You don't get.
They weren't winning a lot of those anyways. So
they weren't winning them anyways. All right. Well, let's jump into this series and storylines heading in. I mean, discrepancy, of course, between the two teams. You're looking at the points and different stats is probably pretty big differences. But Zach, what are you looking at for storylines heading in here?
I think for me, you're going to look at the depth of the Avalanche, because we always talk about this. Regular season points are great, but they don't really matter when it comes to the playoffs, because like you said before, everything nullifies itself back to zero. Can you get the depth to help you score? Yeah, you got Nathan McKinnon with 53 goals, 100 points. You had Martin Easter with 100 points. We talked about it. Once you get past Brock Nelson and Nazem Kadri, 50 points, Valeri Nichushkin, 49, 48 for Lehkonen, 40 for Malinsky, and so on and so forth. Like Gabriel Landeskog at 35 points, that's tied for 9th best on the team. Like there's a huge discrepancy from 1st to 10th on the Avalanche, where if you go look at any other team around the league, like Carolina, for example, they had 6 guys who had over 50 points this season. 7 guys had 20 goals. The Avalanche, we look at how many guys scored just relatively, they also had 6 guys who had 20 goals, and 2 had in the 30s and 1 was 53. But can you get the guys behind your top tier guys to get the production as well? So I'm really looking at, can you get the depth behind a McKinnon, a Nietzsche's, Nelson, Kadri? Can those guys score? That's going to be the big thing. And, are you going to be able to stay consistent? And is your special teams going to show up? Because if your power play is still clicking at the bottom of, let's say if they're 13th or 14th out of the 16 teams, you're going to need those to score, because regardless if it's the Kings or whoever's in the playoffs, if you're not scoring in the power play, you're really going to bring it on 5-on-5. And we saw over the last couple months that there are some points where even 5-on-5, they seem to struggle. So can you get the consistency on, on a night where you're not scoring 6-7 goals a game, and can you get your special teams to do what they need to do and not be bottom of the barrel? Like I said, depth. Is depth going to help you? Because you can't rely on 5 guys to lead you there. We've seen teams that tried that in the playoffs and it doesn't work. And for Colorado to go into this series and even in the playoffs, you're going to need everyone to contribute, not just your Makars and your McKinnons and your Nietzsche's of the world.
Yeah, that's going to be a big thing to see if the Kings can manage to shut down those guys. Really difficult, especially with McKinnon. But yeah, we'll see if that depth can come through for sure. Raz, what about you for the Kings? I mean, Artemi Panarin, big addition coming into this, but of course, maybe a little bit of a cancel out when Kevin Fiala goes down. It's kind of a hard deal, but what are you looking at for storylines heading in here?
Yeah, I think it's just the fact that the Avalanche have the highest goals for in the league and the lowest goals against. The only thing that a team like the Kings can do is capitalize on the chances or the few chances that they are going to get, if they have no finish, they're not going to have a hope in this series. Can they shut the Avalanche? Are going to take over at times. It's inevitable. That's what's going to happen when you have players like McKinnon, like Zach said, McKinnon, Natchez, and Makar. And so can you shut them down long enough for you to be able to get a chance and capitalize on it? Because if you're not going to be able to score, they're going to take it to you. And the problem with, I think that's going to be a big problem for the Kings, is the fact that the Avalanche force you into making mistakes. And once they force you to make those mistakes, they also capitalize. And as we know with the Kings, their D-core took a major step back. They have problems moving the puck out of their zone. It's hard for them mobility-wise to, get things going the other way. And so I think, the Avalanche are licking at their chops right now and saying, like, this is a D-core that we can really torture. So if the Kings want to get out of that, it's really going to have to take their spots with it, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. And I mean, with the style change, a bit of a different type of style when DJ Smith comes in. So we'll see if they're able to. You don't want to get into a track meet with the Avalanche. I don't think that's the right move. That's not gonna work. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. All right. Obviously, for players to watch, we're going to be watching Nathan McKinnon, Martin Necas, Makar, Doughty, Kopitar, all those big guys. But in the playoffs, there's always those guys that come out of nowhere and be big factors. So I'll start with you, Zach. What are you looking at for players to watch in this series for the Avalanche?
I'm looking at Gabriel Landeskog, because you're getting the first full playoffs with him back. I know he came back last year in the postseason, but you're getting a full. I mean, he played 60 games this year, but you're still getting him for a full playoff run. Hopefully, we all know he's the heart and soul of the team. He's the heartbeat. Like, if once he's there, it's something different with Landeskog in the lineup for the Avalanche. I'm looking at him to kind of being a difference maker, and I'm also looking to see what Nazem Kadri can do, because he has been back for a little bit with the Avalanche this season, but can he bring what he did in 2022? I know, we're talking 4 seasons down the road from the last one, and you can tell that there's a little bit of a jump when he's back in the lineup too. The fact he's back in Colorado, that's kind of a big thing. So I'm looking at to see what those two guys can do, because they were, some interesting pieces for the first time they won the cup. And of course they have, other guys that have come into the fold now, but I'm looking at them to see if, do you see more of a depth of magic from the 2022 team and bringing it to the group they have now with, like I said, with the additions of Burns, Jack Drury, what those guys can do as well. You're looking at what Martin Necas has done. And I think, are you going to look at and see, I'm looking at the goaltending. Like, they were solid all regular season, but can they bring what they've done in the regular season with the postseason? Scott Wedgwood had the most starts. Like I said, 31 wins. Barely just a tad over a 2 goals against average. Oh, and they were the Jennings Trophy winners. Yeah. Can that run keep going? That's where it's like, okay, the big target is going to be on the Avalanche goalies, because you won the Jennings. You gave up, I think in total, it was like Wedgwood gave up only like 86 and Blackwood gave up 90. Like, that's some pretty strong numbers from those guys. Can they bring that into the playoffs?
Yeah, the goaltending, like you said, has had a little bit of some chinks in the armor at times for both of them. They're getting, goals against quite a bit and towards the end of the season. But I don't know if you really want to be worried about that. We'll see. Yeah. Raz, what about you? Goaltending, of course, for the Kings, Darcy Kemper, of course, probably will start the playoffs, but Anton Forsberg has been pretty good lately too. So who are you looking at for players?
Yeah, for me, it's Anton Forsberg. I think he should get the start, just because ever since the Olympic break, Darcy Kemper has just been what seems like on another planet, and he's just not someone who is providing what he did last year, especially finishing as a Vezina finalist. Especially with the Kings decor taking a step back, you kind of need Darcy Kemper to be who he was last season, this season, and that just didn't happen. But it is good to see that Anton Forsberg was able to come in and provide some stability. He finished this season off super strong, and so you kind of have to think he's going to start just because he finished off so strong, and it's going to have to be him standing on his head essentially and being the best player on the ice when the Avalanche take over. Otherwise, it's going to be a quick series. I think the other guy is Quinton Byfield, who
Mm.
always seems to kind of turn it on at the second half of the season. Consistent wise, he's still trying to navigate the waters there, but as soon as like February hits, he starts taking off, and I think you need to fight offense with offense as much as defense, and especially against the Avalanche. And so you have Artemi Panarin, you have Adrian Kempe, but you do need guys like Quinton Byfield to provide secondary offense. You need Trevor Moore to be going. You need Alex Laferriere, who's continued just to progress ever since he's gone to the league, to also provide that. And so, and you know, Andrei Kuzmenko is supposedly ready to return. And so, you know how he is with consistency, but when he's on, he's on. And so that's another player that can provide that offense when the Kings do get their chances. So, yeah.
Yeah, Kuzmenko, that could be a little bit of an X factor. I mean, we'll see how he does. I know him very well from Vancouver here, but he can be a difference maker. It's just, that consistency is another thing with him as well. All right, X factors, might have mentioned a couple players already, but I'll stay with you, Raz. We'll with the Kings. What X factors are you looking at going into this series for them?
You talking players or
players, situations, anything that could be an X factor?
The penalty kill, because of how I guess the one part of the Avalanche that isn't good is their power play. Can the Kings' penalty kill hasn't been all that great, but can they withstand? Can they continue to show, or I guess prove that the Avalanche power play is not as good as the players that are on the ice while they're on the power play? And I think also capitalizing on their own power play. That's another part of the season that didn't go so well. Even with Panarin playing on both units, it seems that they've still struggled to score and capitalize on those situations. So, like I said, they're going to have to take their spots, and the power play is going to be a huge part of that. I also think it's moving the puck out, being able to break out and get pucks in deep because of DJ Smith's aggressive, more physical style there. The Kings are sort of not waiting for things to happen like they did under Hiller, and they're trying to force the puck down low and create their own plays. So I think if they're able to move the puck out, you know, they'll be able to get in and then kind of force their own play in the offensive zone. So
sure, that's going to be a big thing. It's very interesting why the Avalanche don't have a good power play with all those great players on it. But that's one of those mysteries, I guess. Zach, what about you for X factors for the Avalanche?
I think X factor is going to be goaltending. If they are able to just continue what they did in the regular season, bring it into the playoffs, and just shut the door, even if it's a track meet where it's 7-5, 7-4, or if it's a random 3-1 win that the Avalanche had a lot this year, where there was a lot closer games that you're kind of like, okay, they had so many chances, but they didn't score. I think as long as goaltending kind of keeps up and not really, put them in a spot where they have to score 7 goals to win, if they can score 3 or 4, I think they're going to be in a fine spot. So, can they shut down the Kempes, the Kopitars, the Byfields, Panarins? If they can just pretty much shut the door and just let the Avalanche play a little bit more loose instead of having to play a track style game where it's like they have to score 5, 6, 7 a night, I think they'll be all right. And I think it's just, once again, depth. Can depth kind of bring it? That's going to be another X factor. If they can bring the depth scoring, I think the Avalanche are in a better spot, because while the Kings do have guys up and down the lineup who can score, I think if the Avalanche get the full team effort, where it's, like I said, we've talked about Kadri, Nelson, McKinnon. If you get Lehkonen, Nichushkin, Landeskog, Parker Kelly, even Jack Drury, if you get those guys involved, I think that's where, if they can start rolling all 4 lines and not just worry about a top 6, I think that'd be a huge X factor too. It's just getting everyone going and not relying on your top 6 to do everything for you. So it's goaltending, get everyone rolling. And if they at least remotely get a decent power play that looks like they're competent, I think that's going to be another big factor too. That just kind of, if they want to end this series a lot sooner or go 7 and make it really interesting for everyone else.
I think we'll see. I mean, I think the power play could be an X factor, which is very weird to say with a team that has so much talent. It shouldn't have to be something to talk about. It should just be an automatic. But yeah, the Oilers had that problem a few years ago too. Where it's like, why can't they score on the power play? This is before they got all dominant for some reason, all of a sudden. But there was a time where they weren't good on the power play too with all those guys. All right, I mentioned, the X Factors is the same stuff as a lot of the time with keys to victory. But Raj, what's the key for the Kings to come out of this series and upset the President's Trophy winners here?
Yeah, goaltending. Like I said earlier, Anton Forsberg needs to stand on his head. The Avalanche are going to take over, and if he's not on his game, then you kind of have to look to Darcy Kemper to come in and provide what he did last year, which is I'm also not super confident in, just because of the way he's tailored off after the Olympic break, and shutting down McKinnon, Makar, and Natchez as much as possible. They aren't going to do it the whole time, but if they can do it enough just to score and capitalize on their own chances, then they have the best. I mean, it's hard to say that there is a key to victory for the Kings, just because they're on paper there really isn't. Like it's hard something to say. You're gonna shut down, they finished with the most points by a long shot.
Yeah.
The Kings barely snuck in a division that was so bad.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to say, like, there's a real path to success here. There is. Anything can happen in the playoffs. The last time the Kings finished as the AC and played the President's Trophy Canucks, they won the cup.
It's true. Yeah.
Maybe there's a little magic in Kopitar's last dance, but it's tough. It's tough. I don't know.
It is tough. Going in and looking at all the stats and everything, it's really tough to see the Kings coming out of this. But you never know. Things happen, and Kopitar can tell his teammates, I was on a team that did it, so for sure. All right, let's move to series MVP. It can be from whatever team you want to go for. Zach, who's going to be the best player in this series?
Do you want to go with the easy, low-hanging fruit answer, or do you want to go off the board? It's going to be Nathan McKinnon. Like, let's be honest. If it's not McKinnon, it's going to be Natchez. Like, I'm giving to one of those two guys. It could be Makar for all we know.
Yeah.
Like, any one of those three, pick him out of the hat. If I had to pick one, if you're not picking Nathan McKinnon, what are we really doing here?
Yeah.
So it's kind of the slam dunk answer, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Roz, is it the same thing as McKinnon's going to be the MVP? I guess if the Kings win it, there's going to be probably the goaltender is going to be.
Yeah, if the Kings win it, I think it's either going to be Forsberg or Byfield. But McKinnon, Makar.
Pretty easy for sure. All right, series predictions. Now let's get our final ones here. Zach, who's winning this? How many games?
I want to say, I'm not going to say it's a sweep, because I think the Kings might steal one, just because of, like I said, Forsberg's been playing really well. They also have firepower too. Yeah, they snuck in with a very bad division and stuff like that. But it's the Kings, it's Kopitar. They're going to have the extra juice because they want to go out on a high note for the captain who was there for 20 years. Mm-hmm. Basically, he was an LA King for his entire career. He is going to like. His number's going to get retired. He's probably going to get a statue because it's on Zach Kopitar does it. So I'll say, just on the extra juice they're going to have and probably steal a game, I would say I could see this going to 6, but I think it's going to be Avalanche in 5.
All right, Roz, are you giving the Kings more? What do you got?
When I made my series predictions article, I had Avalanche in 5 as well. I think I'll go ahead and say I think Kings win game 1 just because they're rolling here at the end and they're on the road. They can't play at home. So if they're going to steal one, I think it's going to be on the road.
Which is very tough because the Avalanche are almost unbeatable at home. So that would be a pretty big thing. That might actually spur them on for a bit. So I'll give them a bit more. I'll say Avalanche in 6. I'm going to give the Kings a one more win there. But it's going to be tough for the Kings to stage an upset. As I said, there's so much firepower on the other side, and the Kings have been very inconsistent in a lot of their games. So can they put it all together for 7 games or whatever amount of time they need to? And the Avalanche have to implode, I think, to really, because they're just so good. McKinnon can do it himself. I mean, and he's got other people that can do it too. So, we'll see what happens. But I'll say Avs in 6, and should be a fun series, even though there is a discrepancy in all the stats. But like I say, 0s at the beginning, so you never know what'll happen in this series. And but we'll see some stars, and I'm sure the Kings don't like, well, we get rid of we don't have to play McDavid, but we'll play the other speedster. We'll get McKinnon now,
and a better defenseman and a better secondary guy.
Yeah, it's
better
it's
goaltending.
Not, that too, for sure. So well, thanks, Zach. Thanks, Raz, for coming on, talking Avalanche and Kings. We'll see who's left standing after this and who I'll be talking to in round 2. And we'll have fun with this series. Make sure to check out everything at thehockeyridge.com. We got great content throughout the site on all the playoff series going on. Round 1 is started. We've got games 1s in the books already. This one goes tonight as you're watching this. So, have fun, and we'll see you next time.